Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast, where today we have a special guest who is a photographer, speaker, and an on-camera coach leveraging video and photography to grow your business. So let's give a welcome to Michael Cinquino. So welcome, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Byron. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have you here. So tell everybody a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'll try to give like a 5-minute Michael here. I have anything but like a linear path. My path in life has been incredibly non-traditional. I'll start in high school because it's kind of when it all started. I was not a very good student in high school. I was a really bad kid in high school. Later on in life, I learned kind of why that was and why I was doing some of the things I was doing. But as a high schooler, I didn't know. And I was basically the kid who was just partying all the time and skipping school and just misbehaving very badly. So towards the end of my years in high school, I didn't really have many options. And I had enough wherewithal to know that I didn't have much of a future and I had to do something different. My grade point average was barely enough to graduate high school. And I think it wasn't even high enough. They just wanted me out of there. So I think they just kind of graduated me to like, please just go. We don't want to deal with you anymore. And at the time I saw a movie called Navy SEALs. Not a great film, but it was Charlie Sheen, very Hollywood type Navy SEAL movie. And I thought to myself, wow, that's so cool. That's what I want to do. So a buddy of mine was kind of in similar shoes, and we decided this is what we're going to do. So we show up to the recruiting office, and we're like, we want to be Navy SEALs. They're like, okay, sure, no problem. So I signed up for the Navy about later on in my junior year of high school. So it was kind of like in September after I graduated, I was going to show up for boot camp. So I got in great shape. I was ready to go. And I showed up to boot camp in September after I graduated. And after about 4 or 5 hours of boot camp, I'm like, you know what? I made a mistake. I don't want to be here. I certainly don't want to be Navy SEAL, and I don't even want to be in boot camp. But it kind of doesn't work that way. So
Right.
They're like, no, you just can't go. You signed a contract. And so I went through boot camp, and I got out, and I went to kind of a secondary school in Mississippi, and I was still just not wanting to be there. So I went to the base psychologist, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I have to get out. He said, okay, well, we could get you out on something called a personality disorder, which just means that your personality doesn't mesh with the military. I said, okay, great, let's do that. And he said, well, you'll get out under a general discharge. I said, well, and this was a guy that was in the Navy. He had an honorable discharge certificate behind him, on his desk on the wall. I said, I pointed at the honorable discharge certificate. I said, I want one of those. He said, well, that's going to cost you 4 years. I said, well, thank you for your time. And I walked out. It was very important to me to finish the commitment. And I didn't want to leave the military in an other than honorable way. So when I walked out of that office, I knew I had basically 2 choices. I could make the most of this experience because I basically still just got in the service, or I can kind of mope my way through it and make it like the worst experience ever. I decided to make the very best of it. And part of my job was kind of getting stuck behind a desk on a ship. I was on a ship for 3.5 years. And I thought to myself, I didn't join the Navy to sit behind a desk. I'm like, I want to do something exciting. So each ship has 2 rescue swimmers. And I was like, you know what? Let me volunteer for this. So a bunch of guys from the ship volunteered to go, and only 2 guys get to go to school. I was one of the 2 guys that went. I went to rescue swimmer school, and I finished the last half of my 2 years in the Navy as a surface rescue swimmer. Great time, really cool stuff. Turned things around. I started taking college courses in the Navy. I was able to get into a great school when I got out, which wouldn't have been a possibility years earlier. And it was really cool because I got into schools that rejected me when I was leaving high school.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really neat. So I got out. So I started to have a little bit of a problem that I actually realized that I had my whole life. As I was leaving the Navy, I had a panic attack, and I didn't even know what that was. And it kind of like they took me up to medical and I thought I was dying and having a heart attack. And they're like, no, you're fine. Everything's fine. I was like, okay. So I'm out of the Navy now like 2 or 3 months. And I was basically crippled by an anxiety disorder. I was going to Penn State University at the time. I literally didn't want to leave my apartment to go to class. I mean, I couldn't, it was suffocating. And the way that the anxiety for me would manifest is that I literally couldn't breathe. I couldn't get a deep breath. So basically I spent my life suffocating. And I didn't know what was going on. I never heard of panic attacks or anxiety. And one day I was driving my car back from the pool. I was in really great physical shape. I was racing triathlon and doing things like that. And I just became lightheaded. I lost my breath. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. And I barely drove home. I called 911. Paramedics come. There I was sitting there, a really great in shape 22-year-old kid. They put me in the thing. They put all the heart monitor and stuff like that on. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, Byron, where you've actually been injured and you can look up at people that are kind of worried about you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right? Okay, so you've had that experience. This was the opposite of that experience, that I was looking up at them and you could tell there's nothing going on. And about, we're getting to the hospital and the guys, they were really great guys, 3 great guys, great paramedics. They're like, sorry, man, we're just going to have to chalk this one up on nerves. I was like, no way. I'm like, I had a heart attack. I'm like, I don't know what you guys think you know, but I know this is what happened. So I go see the doctor. And same thing. She's like, you're incredibly healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. She's like, you had a panic attack. And it was basically like Robert De Niro in Analyze This. Like, I don't know if you've seen the film or the listeners have seen the film. It's like he plays a really tough mob guy who has an anxiety disorder. And the doctor's like, you had a panic attack. And he's like, do I look like a guy that panics? I'm like talking to the doctor the same way. I'm like, no. I'm like, I had a heart attack. She's like, no, it's anxiety. So I learned for the first time that I had anxiety. And it turns out that I'd had it since I was a teenager, and I was self-medicating with alcohol. The self-medicating would take a long time. Like, I would continue to do that for many years. So there I was. I wanted to study psychology because I was fascinated by human behavior, and I wanted to know why people did what they did. So I'm studying psychology, but I learned very quickly at Penn State that psychology didn't really have any fast and easy answers as to why people did what they did. And there were statistics involved in studies. I'm like, I don't care about this. I don't want to do any of this. So I was kind of like a little lost. I met a girl, and she was an actress, and we started hanging out. And she said, I think you'd be a good actor. And I thought to myself, I love movies. People thought I was funny in high school. Maybe I kind of had it in the back of my head. Maybe this could be a career. So I auditioned for some plays while I was at Penn State, and I got cast in all of them because I didn't know what I was doing.
I love that.
And it's funny how that works. So I got cast, and the opening night, it was a comedy. Opening night, I did something on stage, and the audience loved it and just bursted out in hysterical laughter. And it was literally like cocaine being injected into my heart. I'm like, this is amazing. Wow. I'm like, I need to change careers. I'm going to be an actor. So I changed my major to acting at Penn State, and I decided to try to go to a great program, and I had a mentor, and she said, there's this program, Allentown College, that's one of the best in Pennsylvania. You should look at that. So I looked at them, I auditioned, I got in. I did my undergraduate training there, and when I was leaving my undergraduate degree, I went to the city to do kind of a unified audition for graduate schools. I actually didn't plan on going to graduate school. I just wanted to come to New York to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing, for all of us, so because I wasn't trying to get a job, because I wasn't trying to get into graduate school, I gave basically the best audition of my life. And essentially every school that was there in the audience wanted me because I did my work. I didn't give a bad performance. I gave a great performance because I wasn't trying to get them to like me. I was just really just having fun up there. So I was like, I don't want to go to graduate school. But there was this one woman, Deborah Headwall, from Rutgers, who really took interest in me, and she called me a couple times. She's like, I really want to meet you. I want you to come to Rutgers, come sit down in the class. When I was leaving my undergraduate school, DeSales University it's called now, I knew there was something missing from my acting. I didn't know what, but there was something missing. So I went to Rutgers to sit in on class, and there in acting class, I saw what was missing from my acting. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, these guys are amazing. I have to go here. So I went to graduate school for acting. I went to Rutgers University. I got to study with some of the best acting teachers in the world. I was very lucky in that William Esper, who's actually rated the best acting teacher in the country, I got to study with him for 2 years. Another teacher, Earl Gister, I got to study with. He was head of the acting program at Yale School of Drama. He taught people like Liev Schreiber and Angela Bassett how to act, which is super cool. And many other great teachers I had there. And this is what I love to do. And I thought to myself, wow, this is great. I'm living the dream. People always told me when I was growing up, you have to do what you love. If you do what you love, you won't work a day in your life. So there I was, and I left graduate school, still having anxiety. And the whole while, Byron, I'm self-medicating, drinking heavily to just kind of counteract the anxiety, not really dealing with it. So I show up in New York 2 weeks after graduate school. And the first 2 years in New York, I would say, pretty much almost killed me because I learned one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn. And it's this. What you love doing might not love you back. And for anybody that's listening that's been in love before, it's one of the greatest feelings ever, so long as that person also loves you back. It can be the worst feeling you've ever felt, if you've ever felt this, and I don't wish it on anybody, is to be madly in love with someone or something and then have them or that thing not love you back. And because this thing wasn't loving me back, I was just spiraling out of control. I was drinking even more heavily. I started doing heavy drugs. And basically I came to a place where I was like, I love doing this thing. It's not happening. I didn't believe it was ever going to happen. And I was kind of going down the road to just pretty much totally cashing it all in. While I was at Rutgers, I had taught acting to undergraduate students, and I had made a friend of one of my students after class was over. We became actually close friends. And I was someone that she really looked up to. And we maintained contact after I graduated and friends. She knew at that time that I was having a real tough time. So she asked to come by and use the apartment, she said, to change before she went off on an audition. She was an actress as well. So there I was up 2 days, probably a little over 2 days, doing cocaine, drinking, doing God knows what with God knows who, in a basement studio apartment in Hell's Kitchen, which was just there's no light. So there was like one little tiny window. So you're really in a cave. I was basically living in a cave. Barely could pay my rent. On my way out, and Brianna shows up, and I'll never forget, I crawl out of bed at 3:30 on was it Tuesday or something like that. I crawl back into bed to go back to sleep now because I've been up for a couple days. She does her thing. She gets changed. She walked over to me, and I'll never forget what she said. And she just said it with such disappointment and basically tears in her eyes. She looked down on me and said, "What are you doing?" And as soon as she said that, I knew exactly what she meant. And it went right in and punched me in the heart. And I felt so ashamed that there was this person that used to look up to me was now literally looking down on me, and so disappointed in how I was behaving. And that was enough to jolt me that I started to get better that day. And I learned very quickly to ask a different question. The question I had been asking all along was, what do I love doing? And it was acting. And I asked a different question. And it was, what do I love about acting? And what I realized was the answer to that question was that I didn't need to be an actor to do what I loved about acting. What I loved about acting, Byron, was inspiring people. And that's actually what I really do. And, before we hopped on, I was talking about, for the listeners, there's, Byron wrote a great recent blog post about, solving a problem. I'm just looking at it here. Solving a problem is more important than your passion. And what I realized was, there was no demand for Michael as an actor at the time. There's many, many reasons why that could be. But what I realized was that I had to find something that there was a demand for. A little while after that, a camera had found its way into my lap. Someone just gifted me a camera, and that's when my life started. I found a new life and obsession for photography. I didn't know anything about photography. I was starting from scratch. I had no idea even how to operate a camera. And I just became obsessed. And for the first time, I made more money as a photographer in 6 months than I made it as an actor in 2 years. And
now that's incredible.
And what's incredible about it is that I had no training. I had 7 years of some of the best training money can buy as far as actor training goes. I had no training, no history, no nothing as a photographer. But what I did have and what I did find was that it was fulfilling. And I gave to it, and it gave back to me. And as an actor, I was giving to acting, but it wasn't giving back to me. Not in terms of getting roles, not in terms of getting money or anything like that. So when I found this thing, I actually became obsessed with it. And I was like round the clock, weekly, just learning everything that I could, shooting every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day, learning everything I could about Photoshop, Lightroom, all the programs, lighting, everything that had to do with it. And I found that what I loved doing was inspiring people. But there was a demand, aka a vehicle, for what I loved doing, which was actor headshots and portraits and branding photography, here in New York especially. And I was able to start a business from scratch that was like 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I've been going at it ever since. And what I've learned is along the way, and kind of what I'm doing now, P.S. I don't do drugs, and I've been sober almost a year. So a year ago, I going back to my anxiety, not to leave people hanging on that. I learned that, I have an anxiety disorder. And that's it. And, my therapist is my longest relationship in New York. It's true. I've been seeing her longer than I've been seeing my partner, Rebecca. Almost 10 years I've been seeing my therapist. And I realized that, this is something that I have. That's how my brain works. And I've learned to kind of use it as an advantage. And it's enabled me to have a greater sensitivity towards other human beings, especially when they happen to be in front of a camera and their attention kind of goes in. And what I've launched lately, and what I've evolved to, is I ask myself a question: how can I do what I'm doing for people when they're in front of my camera? How can I do that, bring that to a larger audience? I've just kind of launched another business that really helps people be in front of the camera, helps them use it to grow their business faster, and I can talk all about that. But that's not the 5-minute Michael. That was like the 15-minute Michael.
But it's a powerful story, because you think about how people let the environment define them instead of taking control of what they want to do. Because you had everything from the time you went into the Navy and you made that commitment. This is what you had to do. And then in terms of all those adjustments, it's that reflection of life, but you took control of it, versus you look at how many people, they never have that epiphany. They never have that defining moment where they realize, I have to do something different.
You bring up such a good point. I remind myself almost daily that I have what I have now because of what I do. I'll continue to have whatever it is I have if I continue to do what I do. If I want to have differently, I have to do differently.
Right.
And for me, it's become, it's like, well, then you ask yourself the question, well, what do I do? It's actually really simple for myself that I've learned is whatever I'm afraid of is what I need to be doing. As difficult as that might be, I go, okay, well, what's something that I'm afraid to do here? It's like, that's what I need to do. I need to kind of follow the fear and find the gold. That's what I like to say.
Right.
And it's like, life, I feel, is just like a never-ending process of getting out of our comfort zones. Right. Because as soon as you get comfortable, you get static, right? You just stay in the same place. It's like going to the gym, right? You don't push yourself. You do the same weight for the rest of your life, you're not going to grow. You got to add a little bit every time. And there's ups and downs, of course. But yeah, that's, you bring up a good point about environment, because I'll be totally transparent here. I'm very much a product of my environment. So I have to be pretty cautious about who or what I surround myself with, because it could have a really positive effect on me or a really negative effect.
Right. And that's something that's applicable to everybody. We don't look at the people we spend time around as much. You think about the people that are always the traditional Debbie Downers, and people wonder, how come everything seems just to be going downhill, versus you look at others who are constantly achieving more, than you look at the people they're surrounding themselves with.
Right.
It's like, since the Olympics just wrapped up, it would be very rare if, let's say, if you're thinking about the Olympic Village and things in Rio, that you just have the Olympians hanging out with just, the couch potato when they're focused on they want to compete and win.
Right.
So it's everything. You have to define your environment if you want to have the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah, there was something that I heard quite a while ago, but it scared the crap out of me. And it was your income is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
right.
Like, okay, I got to take a look at that.
Right. That is scary because some people look and go, oh no.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of an oh no for me. But yeah, it's and then being around people that are better than you, or quote unquote better than you, or maybe further along than you.
Right.
I forget who it was. Someone said, you should spend your time. It's like 30%. 30% of the time with people that are quote further along or better than you. 30% of your time with people on your level, and then 30% of the time with people that you're a little bit further than it, you can help. And if you divide your time between those three kind of segments, it's usually super helpful for everybody.
Right. And that's a great way to do it, is you don't want to snub people that can use your assistance in growing.
Right.
But it's like, oh, you're not at this level yet. Goodbye, peasants. So move along. You just don't want to do that.
No. I mean, because you would hope that there's people out there that are ahead of you that will go, hey, yeah, let me help you with this.
Right. Exactly.
And then kind of pay that forward to people that are going, hey, Michael, I've got a call today at 5 with someone that was in one of my programs, and she said, I'm just having such a hard time with my message. She's like, how did you figure that out? I'm like, let's talk. I'm like, you got a half hour? She's like, yeah. I'm like, cool, let's hop on a call. And, it's like, what am I getting for it? I get to help her.
Right. And it's those things that can make a difference. Is you never know if that one person you help can open up a door for you later on without even realizing it.
Totally. I do believe it always comes back in some way.
Oh, totally. Now, as you discovered your passion with photography and being behind the camera, how are you leveraging that today to impact the world around you?
Yeah, so I've had the great fortune to have had hundreds and hundreds of people in front of my camera. And as I kind of always say it, I'd have to be an idiot by now not to realize there are some patterns that happen when people get in front of a camera. And the way that I'm leveraging it is that I took the last probably about 7 or 8 months to do research. I took partly my experience and also looking out into the world and interviewing a bunch of people to just talk about the camera and photos and videos and how they affect the world. And what I realized was that no matter who you are or what you want, you have to get on camera to get it, period. Whether it's a date, you have to have an online dating photo, right?
Right.
If you want a job, you have to have a LinkedIn headshot nowadays, and more often than not, a Skype interview, more camera stuff. If you're in online business, forget about it. You have to live on camera, and basically, you really kind of have no choice. You have to show up on at least videos, if not live stream video, pretty often. So what I'm doing is I help people to be attractive on camera, and when I say attractive, I am not talking about physical looks. I'm not talking good looking or bad looking. I'm talking about your ability to attract whatever it is you want with a photo or with a video. And I knew that I was on the right track when I heard a story, and I can't give names and I can't give a company. And I've heard of stories like this more than once. But I had a friend of mine who works for a major fashion brand. She's an SVP. President of the company said, I got a guy in mind for this PR position. I want you to look him up and bring him in. I know he's overqualified. He's going to be great. So my friend looks him up on LinkedIn. And his photo was like him in like a tiger suit. And he thought it was in jest. He thought it was going to be funny. Mm-hmm. But she was really turned off by this. And then brought it to the attention of the CEO. And guess what? He was really turned off by this too. So there was a candidate who's overqualified for a job. And he said, you know what? I don't really feel great about this anymore. Then in the back of his mind, he had kind of like a second tier person who wasn't as qualified on paper, but you know what? He's like, look her up as well. So the CEO actually looked her up on LinkedIn right at that moment, saw her photo and was like, oh, I really like her. I don't know why. There's just something about her in that photo. I really like her smile. Huh? You know what? Michelle, call her in. So they call her in, and guess what? She got the job. She's still working the job today and doing a great job at the job. And when I heard this, I was like, oh my God, the damage that's being done with your photograph on LinkedIn, you don't even know. And here's the silent killer. No one can or will tell you about this. Right? No recruiter. Right. And I talked to a recruiter. He said, look, and he gave a really cool kind of visual for it. And he said, have you ever taken like a a clear template and put it over something. Like say you have some words and you put like, I don't know if you remember, like this is a million years ago, like overhead projectors where you had like, So your photo basically gets put over your resume. And how good or bad that photo is or how attractive you appear in that photo is how much they're going to believe your resume, right? Or not believe your resume. It's basically a filter. He's like, you know what? He's like, I'm not going to lie to you. He's like, I have people qualified. I look at their photo. I don't even give them a second shot. They might be so qualified for the job, but he's not going to call them in based on that photo. Now, again, they can't tell you this, right?
Right.
Same thing with dating, all right? I tell people with dating photos, it's like, do you really think if someone's interested in you in dating and they don't like your photo, they're going to send you a message and be like, hey, I liked your tagline, but your photo is horrible. I just want to let you know that I hated you in the photo, but if you had a better photo, I might like you. No one's going to do that. They're just going to swipe whatever which way it is to get rid of you. So I help people to use the art of on-camera attraction. And there are some things that you can do on camera to be more attractive. And again, this is to attract what you want, not to look pretty or handsome. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So what are some of those things that people can do right away? Like if they're looking at their current headshot on LinkedIn and they're wondering, how come I'm not getting the calls? What is it people should be doing right now to turn things around?
Sure. There's some things that need practice, and there are also some things you can implement right away. I'll give you the things you can implement right away. The biggest mistake we all make when we get in front of a camera is to think it's about us. Because it's an unnatural, weird situation. You get to go get your photo taken. You get this inanimate object pointed at you. You don't know what to do. And unless you have a photographer that's a great coach, I mean, like I don't shut up during my sessions. I coach the whole time to pull people out of themselves. But oftentimes photographers are just visual artists and they're, they got their lights set up, they're ready to go. And they're like, okay. And they take your photo and you're basically there thinking it's about you. And the tiny shift, and it's so funny because we all know how to do this already. The shift you need to make when you're in front of a camera is to realize it's not about you, but about who you're trying to connect with. The camera is merely a pass-through unto whomever you want to reach. So the way to think about it is this. When you look at that camera, you're not looking at the camera. You're looking at the person you want to get a date from, the client you hope to land, the employer you hope to get a job from. And then you ask yourself this question. How do I want them to feel? How do I want them to feel? Inspired, sexy, certain, whatever that might be. And then just give them that look. Because the look you give somebody when they're your best friend is a different look you give them if you want to run them over with your car. Right?
Right.
And we all know what these looks are. So I would say when you look at a camera, say, how do I want to make this person feel? And then just give that expression. And it's like, if I asked you, I said, hey, Byron, your best friend walked into the room just now. How are you going to greet them? It's like, hey, how you doing? Like probably smile from ear to ear, totally open. And the coolest thing is that it's not about you, right? You're trying to make your friend feel something. So the first thing you can do, number one thing, is to realize it's not about you, which is great because it takes a ton of pressure off, right? And it's about how you're trying to make the person feel on the other side of the camera. Pick a feeling, whether it's inspired, happy, welcome, whatever that might be. And then just trust that you know how to do that because you do. There's a second thing that you can do as well. You want to make sure your third eye, for you yogis out there, you know what I'm talking about. For you non-yogis, there's a point between your two eyes. That's like kind of like right at, like between your eyebrows, I would say, like your third eye. You want to make sure that that point of your head is closer to the camera than anything else. And the reason for that is we as human beings generally have a little curvature in that upper spine. So when we get our photo taken and we don't adjust, it's the audience sees the tip of our nose or up our nostrils first. And I always say that it's the eyes that are the windows to the soul, not the nostrils. The nostrils are like the windows to the brain, and like nobody wants to see that. So when you just lower your chin down and you get your forehead a little bit closer to the camera, the audience is going to connect with your eyes first, right? Their eyes are going to go to your eyes instead of their eyes going to the tip of your nose or up your nose. And also there is a psychological human thing that we do. If we want to express love towards another person, right, we bring our foreheads together. We see it all the time, right? It's just a ingrained lizard brain human thing. So when you drop your chin down and you get your forehead closer to the camera like that, you're going to subconsciously affect the viewer in a way that they're not even going to be aware of. They're just going to wind up liking you. and be like, oh yeah, I like this guy. But again, if you make it two things, if you make it about how you're trying to make your audience feel, because the camera is just an inanimate pass-through onto who you want to affect, and get that chin down, your forehead towards the camera, you will be ahead of 90% of the people that I see in photographs. Guaranteed.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, with all the advances in technology and now we have live streaming everywhere, what is it that people should be doing differently? Since it's not like you think about your typical photographs, you have time to adjust things and do retakes. You just have to go. What is it that people should be thinking about when they're jumping on camera for a live stream?
Yeah, it's great. Last year I took time to do over something like 400 Periscope broadcasts, and I did it in about like 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I learned a lot. So for live stream, there's a couple things about live stream that I love. Live stream, I call it the great accelerator for online business, because that's exactly what it is. And when you get on live stream video and you do it well, you greatly accelerate the know, like, and trust factor that usually takes a longer amount of time. No, let me back up. That definitely takes a longer amount of time if you're doing it just through email, just through ads, or even regular video that you talk about, not live stream video, just like kind of your YouTube video, because it enables people to see you real in the moment, and they can trust you very quickly or not. So for live stream, there's a couple of things you want to do. You want to focus on who it is specifically that you're talking to. Whenever I get on live stream, I have a specific person in mind. And for you online business people out there, think of this one person. People call it your avatar, your audience, whoever that might be. Before you hit start broadcast, stop. Take a second and ask yourself a couple questions. Who am I talking to? Right? And then get it I literally have a real human being that I know of. I know her name, I know who she is, and I think exactly who this person is, and I think this is who I'm connecting with. That's who I'm talking to. Okay? The second thing you need to think about is why. Why are you talking to them? And a kind of a mentor of mine, David Newman, he's a marketing guru. He talks the example of writing a thank you letter to your Aunt Edna for a sweater. And people are like, well, what do I say? He said, no, you don't think of what you say. You think about who you're talking to and why. And the example he gives is your Aunt Edna gave you a sweater, so you know who you're talking to, which is your Aunt Edna. You have a point of view about her. You love your Aunt Edna. Great, so that's going to come forth in your behavior. And then why? It's like, I want to thank her for the sweater. So then when you sit down to write this letter, you know exactly, it just comes out. It's a consequence of being specific about who you're talking to and why. So before you get on, why are you talking to them? Why are you hitting start broadcast at that moment? Why are you hitting start on Facebook Live? What is it that you hope to give them? What is your desired response? And I say, always go for a feeling, right? Whether it's inspired or hopeful or empowered, whatever that might be, because human beings are emotional creatures masquerading as logical creatures. We do not make decisions based on logic. All of us, anybody listening to this knows that there's been many times where you've known you should have done better, but you didn't. And then eventually, right? Or that paper you were supposed to write, in college or in high school, and you knew it was due like 3 weeks from now, and you could have started writing it today, but you didn't do that. You waited till the night before, to when the pain was real, and then you're like, oof, I got to write this thing. That's when you moved. So we don't move because of thought, we move because of feeling. And I would say, how do you want to make people feel? And then also, kind of an added bonus, you hear this a lot in marketing, call to action. What's the action you want them to take? Right? What do you want them to take? And I say, to give an added bonus, think in terms of storytelling. The storytelling arc starts kind of low, right? And then we rise to a climax, and then there's a denouement, I forget the name, like a resolution, okay? So if you kind of structure your broadcast start here and then talk a little bit fast, and you've been talking a lot faster at that climax, and say, go out and make a video now, that's it, great, thanks for tuning in. You'll leave people at a higher place, right? You'll take them on a journey, right? You'll make a show out of it. But at minimum, who are you talking to specifically? How do you feel about them? I hope you want to love this person. You want the best for this person. And then why? Why are you talking right now? Is it to teach them how to be better on video? Is it to show them how to use Facebook ads to grow their business specifically? Whatever that is. If you get those two things and you know what you're talking about, you never have to read off a teleprompter. You'll always be coherent. You'll always be compelling.
Now, that is valuable because I see so many live streams out there and they're not very inspiring. You're wondering, what is this person wanting from their viewers? And they lose their audience so quickly.
Right. People say videos live for 7 seconds or something like that. So if you've got a Facebook video and an ad or something like that, people are going to give you basically 7 seconds. And if you don't, grab them in that time, it's no good. For live stream, what I love about it is that there's a transaction taking place. So if people are asking questions on live stream, interact with them. It's great. And I say, make sure you write your bullet points down. I always have bullet points before I go in. I don't make a script. I just go, I'm going to hit this, 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 and this, and I tape it below the camera just so it's there. And the reason why I do that is because I want to be able to engage with people and go off track and then be able to get back on track. Right? Because people ask a question, and you can decide in the moment whether or not to field that question or not. Some questions need to wait to the end, or sometimes you get trolls and hecklers, and you just need to ignore them. But people really appreciate when you connect with them on that level. And then going in, Periscope especially, it's like, hey, Catherine, how you doing? Cindy, great to see you again. Mark, great to have you here. Hope all's well. Like just saying hi to those people. The new viewers will see how connected you are to your audience, and also your lifers, as people call them, people that show up for you all the time, will also feel like, hey, Cinquino's taking a moment to say hello. I really appreciate that. And I'll tell you, as much as we want to pretend, I think lately there's kind of a trend, like anti-service trend. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I got to say, like, the service, I'll say it on a podcast and put myself out there. A lot of the service around here is kind of like pained. Like, you're doing me a favor. Like, I come into the coffee shop, and it's like, you've got to wait on me. It's like, oh, God, here's another guy. Like, I don't think good service will ever go out of style, and I would caution anybody against not treating their audience like anything but their bestest friend in the whole wide world that they want the best for. And people will respond to that. As long as you're genuine, you genuinely care about people, and you put that out there, man, that is magnetic. People will want to be around you all the time. And being genuine and authentic, it goes a long way. And people are really attracted to that.
Right. So now, based on your knowledge, your background, which of the live streaming platforms should business owners be focusing in on? Because, you have Periscope that's been out for a while, then, Facebook Live came along. So you see people trying to figure out, well, which direction do I go in?
Okay. Let me just preface this by saying this. I am not one of those people that chases the shiny object. I believe in longevity. I believe in taking consistent steps every day towards something. That's my school of thought. There are also schools of thoughts. It's like, oh my God, there's a new feature on Periscope. We got to know about it right away. For me, right. I'm like, let me just be consistent in what I do. Now, here's the answer to that question. And here's the issue with that. Any social media platform kind of has a shelf life. And nowadays it happens very quickly. At the beginning, and I was on Periscope near the beginning, last year near the beginning. The problem for like business owners listening to this is that you want to have reach, right? If you have 5,000 followers on Periscope, when you hit start broadcast, you want 5,000 people to get a notification, right? What's the point of having 5,000 followers if 50 people get a notification? Okay, right. So that's what we want. Periscope doesn't want that. What they want is whatever is the most compelling, whatever is going to keep eyes on their platform the most. And it's just an algorithm that's in place for any sort of platform. And if you notice on Instagram has gone to hell. Excuse my language. But a year ago, the reach on my photos on Instagram was great. I was getting many, many, many more likes. Now that they've changed the algorithm, the reach drops. So long-winded answer to your question, what I'm finding is that the reach on Facebook Live is far better than Periscope nowadays. Okay. Unfortunately, that's going to change. And as soon as lots of people come on the platform, the reach for the individual is gonna drop. Okay? It's always this kind of like balance or like fight between individual reach versus kind of like total eyes on the platform. That's why, someone once said to me, Twitter's a total waste of time because there's like 10 celebrities that control the whole thing. And it's kind of true, right? Mm-hmm. Those people that have 45 million followers, or I'll give you an example. On my Facebook fan page, if I post a photo and don't pay for a boost, I get like 20 people see that thing.
Right.
But I have like almost 5,000 followers on the page. I'm thinking to myself, how is this possible? I know how it's possible. They want me to pay for advertising.
Right.
It's pay to play. So right now, without pay to play, I'm finding that Facebook Live gets more reach than Periscope. Right now at this moment. And I'm also finding those of you out there that have Facebook fan pages, probably the best thing you can do for your fan page is to do live stream video. Because I've tested it myself, and I found that when I post just a photo on my Facebook fan page, I get like, maybe 100 people like reach. When I do a live video, oh man, it's near 1,000. So this is another reason to get on live stream video, even just to get on, no matter what you do, just a quick, and going back to your blog post, Byron, a quick little, here's how to solve this problem tidbit thing would be hugely helpful, no matter what you do, whether it's exercise or basket weaving or video, it doesn't matter. So right now, to be very direct, I would say Facebook Live seems to have the most reach. That, of course, is going to change.
Oh, definitely. As things are always coming and going, it's just a matter of being consistent. I think that's the one thing that people miss out on is consistency, that they don't decide what they want to do and stick with it.
It's so true. I want to just add one thing that building my business, and I've been able to build a business from scratch here in New York in the most saturated market in the world. And I've done it through word of mouth. To this day, Byron, with all our social media and all this online everything, 90 to 95% of my business still all comes in through word of mouth. And now people would argue and say, oh, younger millennials are, nope, guess what? 90% of my clients are millennials. So right. Even the millennials who grew up with this technology are still going to each other and saying, hey, man, who's your headshot photographer? And then taking that person's word. So for those of you out there, for social media especially, social media is important. But I've also found of equal importance is to connect with people like we're doing right now.
Right.
I'm connecting with Byron. We have similar interests. He's invited me on his show. Doing stuff like this, I feel, can be much more high leverage than doing an Instagram post or a Snapchat.
Right.
Because you're able to find people that have similar views and to create a kind of a stronger connection faster. So I'm spending a lot of my time finding people that could use my help or people that need people like me and what I do, and going to them and saying, hey, I got this thing, you want to partner on this? Or, hey, my audience, or even going to people and saying, hey, I think my audience would really appreciate your message. Can I share it? I have found that that's more high leverage than even live stream.
And that's so true, because relationships, no matter what, are going to be the most powerful thing. And in today's world, it's where we have to leverage technology to expand our ability to connect with people everywhere. Because if people don't know what we do, then we become the world's best kept secret.
Totally. It's obscurity is our greatest challenge. And I found also that, all of this media always has to lead to either a conversation like this or an in-person interaction. That's when the magic happens. And I've also found that, I don't want to go to a whole other subject, but people can be sociopathic on social media and online. People say terrible, terrible things to other human beings when they're not in their face. You know what I'm saying? It's like, say that to my face. It's like that statement has a lot of truth. And,
right.
I found that, through email, you don't understand tone. Through email, you don't see how your words have impact on that person. And when you're in person, the magic can really happen in a way where we're our better selves in person than we are on social media. On social media, we're always playing our highlight reel, right? And then we see everybody else's highlight reel, or everybody's movie trailer of their lives. And we both know that trailers are like the best part of movies. And we see this trailer, we're like, oh my God, this is awesome. I can't wait for this movie. And then you see the movie and it sucks.
Right.
And you're like, how did that happen? Well, the reason why it happened is it's really easy to be good for 2 minutes. It's hard to be good for 2 hours. So we see everybody's trailer on social media and we're like, oh my God, their life is so good. My life sucks so bad. You're only getting 2 minutes of their life, and then you start comparing your whole life to their trailer. And that's where you go wrong on social media. I'm kind of going to a different section here, but I was just inspired by what you said about social media.
And, that is so true, because you think about how quickly people make snap judgments, that they see that one moment and then they have the entire scenario figured out, but they only saw that one snapshot. You think about how many times that happens each and every day on social media. It's disturbing. It
is disturbing. And nowadays, unfortunately, we've gone away from guilty until proven innocent. And basically, if it happened on social media, it's true. Whatever this thing is you did is horrible.
Right.
And very dangerous, because anybody could say anything about anybody and everybody believes it. On a personal note, one of the things that I have realized, and I've kind of stepped back from social media and news and media, is that in actuality right now, the world has never been better and safer.
Right.
In actuality, when you really look at the history of the world and all the wars and terrible things that have happened right now, we've never been safer and things have never been better. That's actuality. But the problem is that most of us experience reality, which is not actuality, through traditional media and social media. And it's social media and traditional media's job to keep your attention. And they don't have any rules by which they're going to keep your attention. So whatever is the worst possible horrific thing, they're just going to continue to focus on that. So what's happening, I'm seeing, is that since people don't really experience the world as the world is, they literally think the world is on fire. They're going to get gunned down at any moment or blown up or die of some terrible disease, and everything is going to collapse and everything's horrible. And the opposite is true. So anybody listening to this, I also encourage you to go get out into the world, meet people, see make your view of the world from the world, not from what's being kind of curated for you through social and traditional media. Because unfortunately, it's the stuff that's really bad that gets eyeballs, right? The car accidents, the shootings, the fires, the terrible things. People just fixate on that because they need attention.
Right. Definitely. It's the challenge of the world today. If you were to watch the news, when was the last time you saw an entire news broadcast that was nothing but positive stories that took place in the community?
It just doesn't happen.
Right. It's usually, there's a fire, there's a shooting, there is some disaster that took place because people are fixated on it.
Right.
And the way to start changes, people have to detox their minds from all the negativity and start focusing what is the things that they want to have happen. And then everything begins shifting, and then it starts changing the way they appear on social media, the way they carry themselves.
Right. Well said.
So now, as we wrap everything up, Michael, what is one thing that people can do today to begin changing how they appear online?
Great question. I always say start with gratitude. So here is the first step towards that. This is anybody listening to this, and this is something that if you go to my website, this is something that I have you do as well. But one thing you can do today is this. Grab that phone, that cell phone that we all have. Turn the camera on. Pick somebody that you want to thank for something, anything. It doesn't have to be thanks for saving my life that one time. It can be as simple as, hey, you always crack me up with your posts. I just want to say thanks for that. It brightens my day. Do a quick video to that person. Just say, hey, Steve, it's Michael here. I just wanted to say thank you. Every time you post something, you totally crack me up. I don't know where you get this stuff, but it's absolutely hysterical. I just want to say a quick thank you and send this video to say thanks. And that's it. And then just hit send. I guarantee you that person is going to go, huh? And probably be really moved. And I would say if you do that and take that level of gratitude online and take that level of just like not taking a thing for granted, you will shift your online persona to a place where people will just gravitate towards you. And it's just so attractive. And when you start with gratitude in anything you do and you just take action with gratitude, you have to take action. Anybody listening to this, take the 3 minutes that it takes. I know you got your phone right next to you. Just
Right.
pick it up, do a quick video, hit it, text it to a person, and then let that be that. And just do it from your heart, genuine. It doesn't have to be, you sobbing over some terrible, it can be just very simple. And just do that, and then see what that feels like. And then when the person responds back to you, because they probably will, what does that feel like? And then I'd say, if you do that most of the time, what's your life like online?
Right. That is extremely powerful. So now, how can people learn more from you and ultimately work with you to be able to grow their business, to improve their persona when they're in front of the camera?
Sure. MichaelCinquino.tv. It's MichaelCinquino.tv. Make sure you opt in there. You get a great free video series on how to learn to love the camera and to have the camera love you. People are loving it. There's tons of great info there. So you'll automatically get a video series on how to be more attractive on camera if you do that. And then also continuing along how to use it as a tool to get whatever it is you want, whether it's a date or more clients for your online business or a job, whatever that might be.
Oh, that's great. Well, I want to thank you for coming on today, as it's been great to share all of the knowledge and insight that you've brought here to the table today.
Byron, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. I had a great time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.